Hi, and welcome to our exploration of Impressionism. Today, we will journey through the 19th century, uncovering how artists like Monet and Renoir captured everyday beauty and defied tradition. The history of Impressionism is the history of the second half of the 19th century, in a world in the midst of an industrial, cultural, and political revolution. We are celebrating this year the 150th anniversary of an art movement that still deeply fascinates modern viewers. In France, where the movement was born in spite of society's contempt and rigid conventions, the government experienced tumultuous years. The Second Republic, which replaced the July monarchy, lasted just 4 years before being replaced by Napoleon III's Second Empire. He initiated profound transformations in society, starting with Baron Haussmann's modernization of medieval Paris. The world of painting was then dominated by the dictates of the Académie des Beaux-Arts. This institution had the noble aim of contributing to the defense of French heritage. It was, however, heir to a strict set of rules. Founded in 1816, it succeeded to the Académie Royale de Peinture et de Sculpture, which had categorized the various themes represented in its works by order of nobility. Still life, animal painting, landscape, portrait, genre scene, and history were all soon to be thrown out the window by the Impressionists. The Académie des Beaux-Arts, which still exists today, was responsible for the organization of a Salon de Peinture et de Sculpture initiated in 1725 and lasting until 1880. It was at this salon that the descent of the Impressionists, who did not yet bear that name, first made itself heard. At the time, many artists were curtly rejected by the Academy for not conforming to its neoclassical and romantic conceptions. The discontent grew until 1863, when over 3,000 out of the 5,000 paintings submitted were rejected, and an alternative salon was organized, the famous Salon des Refusés. The rebelliousness of his salon should not be exaggerated, since it was organized by the Emperor Napoleon III himself, who inaugurated it and thus marked the beginning of the decline in the supremacy of the Beaux-Arts. In particular, the Salon des Refusés saw the first exhibition of Le Déjeuner sur l'herbe, a painting that triggered one of the most violent debates in 19th century's art. Édouard Manet is often regarded as a pivotal figure who bridged the gap between realism and impressionism. Although not always strictly categorized as an impressionist, his innovative approach and modern subjects had a profound influence on the movement. Le Déjeuner sur l'herbe was controversial for its unconventional composition and juxtaposition of clothed men with a nude woman in a contemporary setting. The young woman pose is inspired by Italian art and by a lost work by Raphael, The Judgment of Paris, known from an engraving. Nudity had no place in this painting, which is neither a mythological nor a historical scene. In fact, the painting had a very large format, which was only allowed for grandiose historical scenes at the time. We don't know what's going on in this scene, a further affront to academicism and its venerable subjects. This painting created a scandal and is often viewed as a starting point of the Impressionist movement and its divorce with the existing conventions. However, it wasn't until 1874 that the first Impressionist salon opened. It was organized by the photographer Félix Tournachon, known as Nadar, whose art was still far from being recognized in official institutions. He entrusted the direction of the salon to Monet, who sent 5 paintings for his own participation, including Impression, Soleil Levant. Monet himself would explain that he didn't dare to call it Vue du Havre on the catalogue, and he casually decided on the name Impression, Sunrise. That name might have remained forgotten had it not been so aggressively mocked by Parisian journalists of the time. Unintentionally, the journalist thus baptized one of the most famous painting movements in the history of art, and remarkably failed to appreciate this exceptional work. In this painting, which generated so much bewilderment and hostility among his contemporaries, Monet paints the port of Le Havre at first light, as activity begins in a misty light, The sun is the only spot of warmth in this painting that almost makes it feel like the morning coolness of the seaside. The sun is reflected in the water with discrete complexity. The limited number of colors does not detract from the effect, which starts out in a tight row, then spreads out in a more widely spaced strokes towards the viewer. The small boats at the center of the composition reinforce Monet's foggy effect. The first is distinct, still showing the oarsman and his passenger, while the second, and perhaps even a third a little further on, are already lost in the water, the movement of which is defined by clean brushstrokes. Thus, the Impressionists took their name. The Impressionists were mocked and scorned by their contemporaries, not least because of their break with traditional subjects. They evacuated from their art the antique and grandiose themes that had so inspired their predecessors. The art of Impressionists is an art of everyday life, in its moment of joy and melancholy, in its ordinary scenes reminiscent of photographs taken in the moment. A classic theme for the Impressionists was the city of Paris, which is a window for their changing world. They had a front row seat at Toubaron's transformations and painted a city that was shading its medieval aspects to take on the airs we know now today. Their representations are of a clean Paris that we would envy today. Yet, the Impressionists did not neglect the working classes, who were far from the first to benefit from the capital's transformation. By abandoning grandiose subjects and epic scenes, the Impressionists left room for a theme that was rarely addressed, with a few notable exceptions. The Impressionists live in a world of rapid industrialization, with boundless advances in science and engineering. In the midst of this whirlwind of innovation, some of these painters focused on depicting the common people who continued to live their lives in a tumult that had only just begun. Rejected by the Salon, this painting was shown at the second Impressionist exhibition. It shows the influence of photography, with this instant taken on the spot and from a bird's-eye view, the lines of which are underlined by the floorboards. The workers have a defined musculature enhanced by the light and reminiscent of academic nude studies. Here, however, they are not Greek gods, but men performing hard labor, in a luxurious setting suggested by the molding on the walls, the ornate window and its wrought iron balustrade, and finally, in the distance, by the other Haussmann building, bathed in light, which contrasts with the dark atmosphere of the room in which the workers are toiling. The Impressionists brought on another new subject, the casual family representation. In previous centuries, this theme has been treated with a constant concern to illustrate the power and wealth of those who commissioned the paintings. The aristocracy and the great royal family of Europe were represented in majesty, in more or less fixed attitudes. With the notable exception of this painting by Boucher showing a relaxed family scene, it was the Impressionists who brought to the forefront family intimacy detached from any staging. The actors in this painting are chatting, reading, sewing, looking a little bored, in serene settings of verdant countryside. Last but certainly not least, the Impressionists depicted nature and landscapes from an angle detached from the backgrounds, showcasing idealized nature or antique settings beloved by their predecessors. Impressionist landscapes contrast with their softness due to the diffuse use of color on the canvas. The Impressionists portrayed the French countryside, and in particular the Normandy coast and Bocage, in 1,000 facets, focusing on the sea and its fluctuating colors and changing waves, on peaceful riverbanks and ponds on which they placed their easels. They remained famous for their depictions of nature. They transformed the representation of landscapes by emphasizing natural light and atmospheric effects. They focused on capturing immediacy and visual sensations. Monet perfectly illustrates this approach in his Les Meules series. By painting outside in various times of the day and of the year, he captured the changing light and shadows on haystacks, creating works in which nature seems alive and in perpetual motion. But who were the Impressionists? In the journey so far, we have already met Monet. He is often regarded as a quintessential Impressionist, a leader in the movement who captured the fleeting effects of light and color in his works. His series paintings, such as the Water Lilies, Haystack, and Rouen Cathedral, are iconic examples of his approach. He has left us with the exceptional gardens of Giverny, which inspired most of the paintings in the final part of his life and remain today one of the most iconic touristic sites in Normandy. We have also met Renoir. Known for his vibrant and sensual portrayals of people in everyday scenes, Renoir's work often depicts lively social gatherings and intimate moments, characterized by rich colors and fluid brushwork. We briefly met Sisley and his serene riverside, Pissarro and his wonderful representations capturing the changing seasons and time of day, and Caillebotte, who not only contributed to his movement on his own right as a painter, but also acted as a patron and supporter of his fellow artists, helping them organize exhibitions and promote the movement. But wait, is this only a boys' club then? Well, almost, unfortunately. Two women stand out, Berthe Morisot and Marie Cassatt. Berthe Morisot was one of the few female artists at the forefront of the Impressionist movement, known for her delicate and intimate portrayals of domestic life. She was bright, beautiful, always courted but fiercely independent. Her works often focus on the lives of women and children, rendered with a light, hairy touch that emphasizes the play of light and color. One of her notable paintings, The Cradle, depicts a tender moment of a mother watching over a sleeping child, where she's represented herself and her daughter Julie. She was friends with Marie Cassatt, who was a rare American painter and printmaker in the Impressionist movement. She was also known for her tender and insightful depictions of mother and children. Cassatt's work often explores the private and domestic lives of women, portrayed with a keen sensitivity to their emotions and interactions. But is it fair to only remember them for their domestic scenes and motherly depictions? Not quite. And their work should not be reduced to these themes. Morisot's versatility is evident in works like The Harbour of Lorient, where she captured the bustling maritime scene with a nuanced palette and lively composition. Similarly, Marie Cassatt's body of works include a diverse range of subject and style. While her depiction of mother and children are indeed central to her legacy, Cassatt also produced significant works that explore other themes. For instance, The Loge depicts a woman in a theater box, capturing the elegance and social dynamics of the time. In a similar style, Woman with a Pearl Necklace in a Loge illustrates her skills in rendering the interplay of light and shadow in an indoor setting. And we cannot live without citing Edgar Degas. He is often associated with his dynamic and detailed depictions of ballet dancers, which became a central theme to his oeuvre. Unlike his fellow Impressionists, Degas preferred indoor scenes, where he could closely observe and capture the subtlety of human movement and expression. His painting, The Ballet Class, is a prime example showcasing his meticulous attention to the poses and gestures of dancers. In addition to his ballet scenes, Degas also explored themes of modern lives, such as in L'Absinthe, which portrays a woman and a man seated in a Parisian café, absorbed by their own thoughts. This painting, with its somber tones and detached figures, reflects Degas' interest in the psychological depth and isolation often found in urban settings. His work is characterized by the innovative use of composition and perspective, which influenced not only the Impressionists, but also future generations of artists. The overall legacy of Impressionism is a testament to the power of artistic innovation and resilience. From its humble beginnings, marked by the rejection and ridicule from the established art institutions of the time, Impressionism has grown to be one of the most beloved and influential art movements in history. The daring break from traditional themes and techniques, coupled with a focus on capturing the fleeting moments of everyday life, not only revolutionized the art world, but also provided a profound commentary on the rapidly changing society of the 19th century. Through the work of Monet, Renoir, Degas, and others, we witness a vibrant and dynamic representation of life that continues to resonate with the audiences today. In celebrating the Impressionists, We also recognize the significant contributions of female artists like Berthe Morisot and Marie Cassatt, who challenged gender norms and left an indelible mark on the movement. As we reflect on the evolution and impact of Impressionism, we appreciate not only the beauty of artworks, but also the courage and vision of the artist who defied conventions to create a new artistic language. The legacy of Impressionism, with its emphasis on light, color, and everyday moments, continues to inspire and captivate, reminding us of the enduring power of art to transform and transcend.